Hello. Today's debate will be about the COVID-19 or coronavirus, the pandemic that's freezing the whole world and that has sadly reached our country. Mexico's first confirmed coronavirus case was diagnosed on February 28. Now, a month after its outbreak, it's been officially confirmed that 992 more Mexicans have contracted this disease. It's been confirmed that Mexico is currently facing the second level of the coronavirus spread, meaning that the virus has been detected among people within the country who have not necessarily had contact with patients exposed outside of the country. The biggest challenge Mexico will be facing due to the coronavirus is that the government will eventually have to decide what's more important, health or economy. So today we will be discussing if Mexico should not start taking more extreme measures to stop the disease spread around our country. At first, Nicole will deliver her arguments against introducing the mandatory quarantine to Mexico.
Right now, I'm going to say the contra arguments. First of all, I do not believe that Mexico is a country that could go in quarantine. Why? I think we should really look at the general panorama of what Mexico is as a country. Mexico is a third world country. Mexico is a country where 50% of its population is really poor. Mexico is not a country that can just stop working and whose economy can stop working for months without any big repercussions. And not only long-term repercussions, we will be able to see small-term repercussions. First of all, we have to look at the families that live the day by day. Families who are totally supported by their day economy. So if one day they don't get to sell stuff, then the other day they won't be able to buy any food. These families are the most vulnerable ones. Maybe employees that work at really big companies will be able to be paid. That depends completely on the government support on that company and on the company policies. But those workers that do not depend on any company and any higher force, those workers will be the ones that will really feel the impact of a quarantine. First of all, they won't make any income because they won't be able to sell, or there won't be any customers. These families will die from starvation because they won't have anything to eat. We have to remember that our government is not capable to give the working people a payment while in quarantine. That's why the quarantine idea is not even a possibility. If Mexico were to be in mandatory quarantine, the people will rebel against it because the people cannot afford, and we are not privileged enough to just spend months without doing nothing, without getting any payment, and without gaining any profit. The social economic aspect of the situation is the most important one. The pandemic is really concerning, and it's something we have to keep an eye at. But it's really important that we don't forget the people's well-being as well.
Now, I will deliver the arguments for introducing the mandatory quarantine to our country. After the coronavirus outbreak started in Mexico, the government has taken the situation very lightly. Yes, most schools have suspended their presential activities and switched to online learning. But it's also a fact that our president told us a few weeks ago that we shouldn't worry about the pandemic, and instead of following the recommended health measures to prevent the spread of coronavirus, we should hug our beloved ones during these difficult times. Mexico is clearly not ready to face a pandemic, and the fact that quarantine is not mandatory yet, even though the number of cases is growing exponentially, is a big mistake, and here's why. Mexico is Latin America's second most populous country with approximately 129.2 million inhabitants. As we all know, this disease can be contracted just by having contact with an infected person, so an overpopulated country is the perfect place for coronavirus to be spread out. Aside from the potentially high rates of infected people, Mexico's public health care system is pretty fragile because the government only gives 5.9% of the gross domestic product to this important sector. If the cases of coronavirus keep increasing like they have in the previous weeks, our healthcare system will collapse. There will be a lack of personnel and resources such as medicine and hospital beds to take care of the patients, causing a higher mortality rate that will possibly affect more our economy in the future due to the higher loss of workers. And yes, maybe starting early with quarantine can affect Mexico's economy, but we have to face the facts. Mexico's economy is already starting to suffer without us being in mandatory quarantine. The peso is starting to lose its value, and the Mexicans who are not privileged enough to do home office are still risking their lives every day by going to work to win some money. So I believe the sooner we start with quarantine, the sooner this problem will be over. So what are we waiting for? Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming to our debate. We both believe this pandemic is something that is very important. We believe that the best way to fight against it is with information and constantly discussing about this topic.